What's up, everybody? Ethan here. Welcome into the Drice Bros Sports channel. We're going to be doing a pre-week two fantasy week two starts and sits video here. I'm going to try not to get distracted by the Thursday night game. That's going to start in about 30 minutes that I have on right in front of me, but I'm sorry if I pause every now and then. But here we go. Don't want to make this video too long. Before we get into it, if you like the video at all or find it helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be getting out this kind of content throughout all of the NFL season and really sports content out all the way maybe until summer when it slows down a little bit. But even then, there's going to be some stuff on. Also, I think the plan is for the NFL season, guys, is to maybe like Wednesdays, although this is going to probably come out on Thursday night, Wednesday, so we can include the Thursday night game, getting the pre-week start and sits out, this kind of video, and then a post-weekend reaction, maybe like Monday night, Tuesday, or maybe even like Monday before the Monday night game. So kind of expect those. Hopefully it helps you guys. If you guys have any questions that don't get answered in the video, please just comment your questions, especially if it's related to start and sit, and I will get back to you in the comments pretty much ASAP. So this video will not be posted in time for Buffalo-Miami Thursday night game. As I just said, we're about 30 minutes away from that kickoff. I apologize for you guys that have players in that game. I'll touch on it briefly, but since it's not going to end up being helpful for any of you, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's something that in the future, like I said, I think we're going to get this kind of video on like Wednesday evenings to make it so people can see for Thursday. I do think it's kind of self-explanatory, though. Buffalo, let's just start here. Buffalo, Josh Allen, QB1, you start every week. James Cook, RB1, you start every week, especially in full PPR. The receivers in Buffalo, as of pre-week two, they're all kind of flex plays until one of them emerges. Keon Coleman's probably my favorite out of them. He showed some good stuff in week one, had the most targets, I believe, for the receiving position. Shakir caught the touchdown week one. However, I think he just is who he is. I don't think he's going to have a very high ceiling. And then they also use Mac Hollins. He should be on your bench unless there's injuries, other injuries there. Dalton Kincaid, I think he's about to have a bounce-back game in this Thursday night matchup. Pretty much did nothing in week one, but I really do like Dalton Kincaid still. I'm not overreacting on him. I think he probably is going to have a bounce-back game. So we'll see here in about 30 minutes what happens with that. But it's still kind of annoying that they just use Dawson Knox a lot still. So that limits his upside a bit. But I think the targets will come to Dalton Kincaid. Miami, Tua's like a low-end QB1, high-end QB2. Like you start him in deeper leagues, I guess. But he's never going to run the ball, so you miss out on that. Tyreek Hill, easy start. Jalen Waddle, easy start. Don't really start their tight end, Jonnu Smith. You don't really ever want to start him, I don't think, as of right now going into week two. Achane for week two is questionable game time decision. It might have already came out already. I just haven't looked on X in about an hour. Achane looks legit, though, if he's healthy, guys. If he's not going to play, then we don't really know. I think it's like a split backfield if Achane's not going to play. Maybe Jalen Wright starts to emerge. Mostert's already ruled out for this Thursday night game. He looks like a bad pick. I already have Mostert. I feel bad about that too. Pretty much Achane's the guy, and then if he's out, you just take like the next guy up, but you feel less good about it. So like tonight, if Achane's out, Jeff Wilson's probably going to have a lot of opportunities, and then maybe they use Wright a decent amount. So once again, I don't know if Achane's even playing right now. I apologize if he is out, though, and you have him. Let's move on to the games that you guys are actually going to be able to use some of the information I'm talking about in. And once again, I apologize for not getting this out for you guys before the Thursday night game. Something I will learn from as the weeks go on. But talking about Raiders-Ravens, this should be get-right game for the Ravens. Raiders look bad. They just got easily beat pretty much by the LA Chargers. You start Devontae Adams, even though it's a bad matchup. He should get targets, and they should be having to throw a lot this game. Myers is a flex, like maybe low-end wide receiver 2. If Myers is getting some targets, he'll have value, and they should be having to throw the ball, but I don't love it. Trey Tucker is a guy you continue to keep on your bench as like a young guy that maybe will emerge later in the season. Gardner Minshew, hopefully you don't have to start him. Maybe in deep leagues you have to, but most leagues you're not starting Gardner Minshew. Brock Bowers is a highlight for the Raiders offense. Brock Bowers looks legit. He's going to continue to get better as the season goes on. You start him almost every week as a tight end one at this point already. Good for Brock Bowers and Brock Bowers owners. Running backs, kind of a split backfield a little bit in a pretty bad matchup against the Ravens. Zamir White's like a very low-end RB2 this week. Addison is maybe like a low-end flex play. You hopefully don't have to start either of them. Most people are probably going to have to play Zamir White in some fashion. Don't feel great about it. Don't expect a lot from him. Hopefully maybe he catches a couple passes out of the backfield. He does look more explosive. Or pretty explosive, so maybe he'll find something, but don't love it. Ravens, kind of easy because they have a good matchup. Don't expect a lot from the passing game, though, because I think they're going to be up a lot in this game, and I think they're going to run the ball a lot. Big Derrick Henry game incoming. I would not be surprised if this is a week that he sees 2+ touchdowns. They're probably going to give him 25 carries. And he's probably going to make some good use of some of them. So he's going to maybe have a bounce-back game. You don't start Justice Hill. Not going to be a good game script for a Justice Hill game. If something ever happens to Derrick Henry, then Justice Hill becomes very intriguing. Lamar Jackson, you're absolutely starting. Lamar Jackson's probably going to have a big-time rushing game. Maybe not as much as week one, but regardless, Lamar Jackson's a baller. You play him every week. You probably have to play Zay Flowers. He's probably a wide receiver 2. I just don't know if they're going to want to be throwing the ball that much. Zay Flowers will get some targets, but if he's not going to score a touchdown, don't expect a big Zay Flowers game. Rashad Bateman, another guy, if he's not going to score a long touchdown, he's probably going to do nothing for you all season. He's a guy that you can probably keep way down on the bottom of your bench. Tight ends, though, is the big thing. I'm not ready to give up fully on Mark Andrews yet. I did kind of talk badly about him in my week one reactions. I think this is the game, though. Like, I think if he's going to bounce back, this is it. If he doesn't bounce back, then I'm willing to kind of panic as a Mark Andrews person if you have Mark Andrews. However, I think they are going to – I have a feeling they are hearing all the Mark Andrews hate as the Ravens are, and they're going to almost purposely get Mark Andrews on the board this week. And give him that bounce back game. I expect some targets to go his way. I expect some red zone targets to go his way. I would not be shocked at all if he's the one that scores the touchdown this week. However, I still like Isaiah Likely. So if you picked him up and you feel like you need to play him, still play Isaiah Likely. Just don't be surprised if you kind of get screwed over and now it's like all of a sudden Mark Andrews is back. So if you have Andrews, play him. If you have Likely, go ahead and play him if you feel like you need to. If you have both of them, that's where it gets tricky. I would not blame you at all if you kind of want to play it safe. Isaiah Likely looked really good in week one. You want to play Isaiah Likely. Go ahead and do that. However, like I said, I would have a hard time sitting Mark Andrews this week if you have Mark Andrews. I would hate to be someone that doesn't play Mark Andrews because I overreacted in week one, and then he goes for 2 touchdowns in this game against a bad Raiders team. Keep that in mind. I don't blame you if you play Isaiah Likely. However, if you're a person that has both Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, I would maybe give Mark Andrews one more week. And then if he screws you over this week again, then you can maybe kind of give up on him and just play Isaiah Likely. So that is it for that. Moving on. Chargers, Panthers. Panthers look horrible. Let's start with the Chargers. Herbert is a low on QB1, maybe high on QB2. You ideally don't have to start him, but he's startable, especially against the Panthers. You definitely start Ladd. I think Ladd's going to be like the steal of the draft wide receiver-wise in fantasy this year. Their connection is just going to continue to grow between Ladd and Herbert. I think Ladd probably scores a touchdown again this week. Palmer's maybe like a flex play. He didn't look great in week one. However, he's still going to have some opportunities against a bad Panthers team. I think the big one here is going to be the running backs for the Chargers. I think they have another big week, and I think they're both playable. Dobbins had a great week one against a bad Raiders team, and he had a great game. I think essentially the same thing could happen here against a bad Panthers team. Gus Edwards is another guy I'm willing to start. I think he has a good chance to get an end zone. Like, they're probably going to have at least a goal line carry against a bad team at some point, and I think he's going to be the one that punches it in. So, unfortunate they still kind of split the backfield. Dobbins is like a low-end running back 2 play, maybe running back 2, and Edwards is like a flex play kind of guy. You hope he scores a touchdown in this good matchup. So, not much from the tight ends on the Chargers. Not much to think about there. Panthers, I was going to say the Chargers have like the easiest first 2 games of the entire year. They have the Raiders and then the Panthers. Lucky them. But the Panthers are horrible. I don't want to start anyone for them in almost any matchup as of right now. Now, maybe halfway through the season, they start to figure some things out. They get a little better. You have some guys you can start there every now and then. But like Deontay Johnson looked horrible week 1. Thielen is probably the guy that looks the best, but I mean, even him, much rather just put him on my bench. Deontay Johnson is another guy I'm probably just going to wait on, and maybe he ends up clicking with Bryce Young. Bryce Young, I don't think is very good. He's also in a bad situation, which doesn't help, but I just don't trust that at all. You have Leggett, you're putting him on your bench. Maybe as a rookie, he starts to emerge a little bit later in the year. Chuba Hubbard is probably the only guy that like you really might have to start at the running back position. He's like a very low-end RB2, maybe like a flex play guy. You don't want to have to start him. Their team's just so bad. Maybe he can catch some passes out of the backfield on checkdowns, but man, it doesn't look good. I think at this point, you just hope Jonathan Brooks comes back halfway through the season and like adds some spark to the team, but they look so bad. Not really a tight end there worth talking about either. So let's go back and click on the next game. Fun matchup here against some 2 very good defenses and 2 very fun offensive performances in week 1. Let's start with the Saints. Derek Carr looked great in week 1. I think they're going to get humbled a little bit in this game. I'm not saying they're going to get killed. I'm not saying they're going to get beat up terribly. I just think they're going to lose, and the Cowboys are legit. So don't expect Derek Carr to do what he did in week 1 against the Panthers. 2 opposite teams in the Panthers and the Cowboys. However, Derek Carr is playable. I mean, if you were in a super deep league, high-end QB2 kind of play, ideally you don't want to play him, though. Chris Olave is a guy that probably will have a bit of a bounce-back week just because of how the game scripts are going to look. They're going to have to throw the ball more this week. Olave's going to get more opportunities. I want to start him. Low-end wide receiver 1, maybe high-end wide receiver 2. Rashid Shaheed's like a low-end wide receiver 2. It's not going to do much unless he catches a long touchdown. So if that's not going to happen, it's going to look ugly. So I'm not going to play him in this matchup unless you really, really have to. And then we're talking Alvin Kamara. You're definitely starting him in every matchup just because even if his rushing performance isn't going to be very good, which is probably not going to be against the Cowboys, he's probably going to catch 4 or 5 balls out of the backfield because Derek Carr likes to check it down. So you did good if you're an Alvin Kamara owner. You just hope he stays healthy as he ages. Taysom Hill, too. If you're in a league where you can start Taysom Hill as your tight end, go ahead and do it. Not a great matchup this week, but you don't know. They use him like crazy. Like sometimes they'll line him up in the backfield, maybe at fullback, maybe he punches one in from the goal line. You can play him if you need a tight end. The Cowboys, you start Dak. Saints defense is also very good. Like the Cowboys ran into 2 very tough matchups week 1 and 2. I mean, week 1 against the Browns defense, even though they went off, and then this week against the Saints. You still have to start Dak probably and not really like overthink it. CeeDee Lamb, obviously you start, don't overthink it. Brandon Cooks is like a low-end wide receiver 2. Playable guy. Not my favorite, especially against the Saints. Don't want to really start any of the Cowboys' backfield against the Saints. You probably have to start Zeke. You hope he you hope he falls his way into the end zone like he did in week 1. Otherwise, he's probably not going to do much. Definitely not playing Rico Dowdle yet. You just hope. Rico Dowdle is a guy you keep until you hope, and like not hope, but until Zeke gets hurt, if he gets hurt. Jake Ferguson, really quickly, tight end for the Cowboys, suffered a bone bruise in his knee. Seems like he has a chance to play in week 2 miraculously. I think he's probably going to be somewhat limited if he does play. I have picked up other guys that I'm willing to start over Ferguson, even if Ferguson does play. Keep an eye on it, though. If he plays, don't blame you if you want to play Ferguson. However, if he doesn't play, be prepared to play someone else. Even if he does play, I'll probably will play a guy like a Parkinson for the Rams. I just know bone bruises can be weird. Like, you're going to be slower. Maybe he lucks out and catches a touchdown against the Saints, but not only is it a tough matchup, coming off of an injury isn't something I want to really deal with, and just kind of see how he does the next week or two if he does play. So keep an eye out for Jake Ferguson injury reports. Let's move on to another fun game, Lions and Tampa. Start the Bucks. Baker Mayfield looked really good in week 1 against a really bad Washington Commanders defense. Don't think he's going to do quite as good maybe this week against the Lions. However, if you really need to play Baker Mayfield in a league, it's not like the end of the world. You absolutely start Mike Evans. You absolutely start Godwin. The rookie wide receiver they have there in McMillan, you can keep him on your bench. He looks good, but I just don't think he's going to have a lot of opportunity with Mike Evans and Godwin still in very much healthy right now. Otton, the tight end, really isn't playable through week 1 at least. Don't worry about playing him in most leagues. Rachaad White and Bucky Irving is interesting. Rachaad White seems like he's fine. He's doing good. They're giving him opportunities. He's still able to catch the ball out of the backfield. However, Bucky Irving is a guy that looks explosive and looks like someone they like and is slowly maybe eating into Rachaad White's touches. You don't want to overreact after 1 week. However, I would not be shocked if, as the season goes on, Rachaad White is losing touches to him. So that's going to make Rachaad White's floor a lot worse and his ceiling a lot worse, obviously. You still start Rachaad White as of right now. He's like a wide running back 2. Keep an eye on the Bucky Irving usage if you are a Rachaad White owner, though. Moving on to the Lions, Jared Goff's kind of in like that same tier as Baker Mayfield is. Don't love the matchups for either guy in this game. If you have to play Jared Goff, I get it. Don't want to, though. Let's get the running backs covered here. Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy you want to play, is like that high-end RB2, low mid-range RB2 probably. They're still going to be splitting the backfield if both guys are healthy, is what we learned in week 1. The difference is Jahmyr Gibbs catches passes. So if you're in a PPR league, Jahmyr Gibbs is that wide running back 2, and you continue to play him without feeling too bad about it. Montgomery still looks like a guy they really, really like, though, and they're going to give him goal line carries. And the thing with him, though, is if he's not going to score a touchdown, he's not going to really do anything for you. And this is a tough matchup. So you start Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in PPR. And then if you have to start David Montgomery, I get it. Don't expect a lot from him in this matchup, though. You hope he runs into a goal line touchdown. I would put David Montgomery probably as like a low-end RB2, like flex play, a guy you're hoping to get in the end zone. In a tough matchup, though, you really don't like it. Obviously, you start Amon-Ra and Laporta. And then let's touch really quickly on Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams had a great week 1. I think he's really good. However, I think week 1, the Rams were keying in on Amon-Ra. So we'll see how it plays out against the Buccaneers. Jameson Williams is still a guy you can start. He's like a wide receiver 2. I just think he's very boom or bust. If he's not going to catch a touchdown or have a big play, he's probably not going to be very good for you in that week. Just keep that in mind. Boom bust kind of player is what I expect to see. Moving on, Packers and Indy. I'm pretty sure we still haven't gotten a confirmation that Jordan Love is out this week, even though everyone was saying like 3 to 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure the Packers haven't ruled him out yet. We're going to do this assuming Jordan Love is not going to play. If he is not going to play and it's Malik Willis, I'm very hesitant to start any Packers wide receivers. Jane Reed then becomes a low-end wide receiver 2 or a flex play. Christian Watson is pretty much not startable. Dobbs and Wicks are not startable. So keep that in mind if Jordan Love is not playing. You don't really like any of them. If one of them, pretty much your only bet is if like one of them gets a bunch of targets or like a touchdown, because Malik Willis is not going to support a wide receiver 1. The tight end position, same goes for them. Already they aren't very inspiring. Kraft and Musgrave both on the field a lot. Don't really want to start either of those guys, especially if Jordan Love isn't playing. You have to start Jacobs probably. I don't really like. He's probably a wide running back 2 with Jordan Love in the lineup. Without him in the lineup, he's probably a lower end running back 2. The defenses probably are just going to be able to key in on the run and just stop Jacobs. And I'm just hoping Jacobs stays healthy until Love gets back as a Jacobs owner. Hopefully Jacobs catches a couple check down passes maybe. And maybe he'll break like a run, or maybe he'll get into the end zone on like their few goal line attempts that they're going to probably have without Jordan Love. Kind of ugly, but you have to start Jacobs. The Colts, Anthony Richardson is very good. Start him. Look good in week 1. Jonathan Taylor, very good. Is a little bit limited with Anthony Richardson's running ability. However, you're absolutely just starting Jonathan Taylor without worrying too much about it. The receivers there, I mean, you probably have to start Pittman. He's like a low-end wide receiver 2. Wasn't very inspiring in week 1 either. Alec Pierce, we talked about briefly in my week 1 reactions video, fantasy implications that we posted a few days ago. I didn't realize Alec Pierce only had like 3 targets, and he caught 2 of them, and they were all like deep down the field. One of them he scored on. Alec Pierce actually isn't really a guy. You can have him on your bench if you want, but I think it's like Pittman and Downs and Mitchell before Pierce. So, and I'm also just not starting Downs or Mitchell until we see more. So, and also with the Colts, or the tight end on the Colts there, I can't even think of his name off the top of my head. Like maybe it's like Cranston or something like that. It might be completely wrong. I don't know. And since I don't really know anything about him, you're probably not going to be starting him. So I think we got that one covered. Interesting game, though. We'll see if Jordan Love is going to be out. Probably a little bit maybe of an ugly game here. Browns, Jaguars, 2 decent defenses. Browns defense is pretty good. Yeah, pretty ugly here. We'll start with the Browns. Watson does not look good at all. You're probably playing Amari Cooper as like a wide receiver 2. Maybe he has a bounce back game. He did have 9 targets in week 1. It's just Deshaun Watson sucks. Jerry Jeudy maybe is like a flex play. He's probably not going to do a whole lot though if he's not catching a touchdown. So keep that in mind. Jaguars defense did do pretty good against the Dolphins offense in week 1, so I'm not expecting a lot from the Browns this week again. Njoku's hurt. Don't really want to start the other tight end until we see more from him. Elijah Moore's there. Almost forgot about him. We'll bring him up for a second. Keep him on your bench or leave him on the waiver wire. You're not interested in him. Even last year when he was like the guy that had the opportunity, he did nothing with it. And then we move on to Ford. Ford is playable. He might catch some check downs or get some carries, or not some carries, some easy like screen plays. He might get some carries in the red zone. So you play Ford like a low-end running back 2. He didn't look great in week 1 against a good defense. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, playable guy, but just not a guy you're excited about at all if you have to play him in your fantasy league. Deeper leagues, maybe you play him. Interesting thing with the Jaguars, let's touch on the receivers first, and then we'll get to the running backs, which are interesting. The receivers, you play Christian Kirk as like a low-end or wide receiver 2 kind of play. Brian Thomas, probably like a flex play. And then like that's about it. I'm not starting Gabe Davis. Evan Ingram, you have to start as your tight end 1, even though he had a bad week 1. Maybe he gets into the end zone this week. Let's talk about the running backs, Etienne and Tank Bigsby. Really interesting. Bigsby and Etienne pretty much ended up splitting carries. Something that we need to keep an eye on. I think Bigsby is going to they're going to try to play Bigsby as long as he's healthy, just to limit Etienne and try to keep Etienne healthy, which is something you do not want to hear if you're an Etienne owner. You probably have to continue to start Etienne for now, but limit your expectations. I mean, you hope that Etienne gets the goal line carries still. That may not be the case all the time. You hope he catches the passes out of the backfield. I think that's in PPR. That's where he's still going to be useful, or the most useful. A little bit of a scary situation, though, for Etienne owners. We'll see how it plays out. Not a good matchup, though. He's probably like a low end RB2 this week in ETN, so don't expect a lot out of him. Let's go to the next one here. In down here at San Fran in Minnesota. This is going to be a humbling experience for the Vikings. They went off against a very bad team in the Giants in week 1, and now they're playing the Niners, who went crazy in week 1 as well, and they're very good. So let's start with the Niners. The Niners, you got Brock Purdy. You can start him. He looks good. You start Debo. You start Ayuk. You start Kittle. If Christian McCaffrey is not playing again in week 2, which it looks like he probably isn't as of the Thursday night game right now, you start Jordan Mason. And you feel pretty happy about that. Shout out Jordan Mason owners. He is really good. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say about the Niners is Greg Jennings. I don't know what his injury situation is looking like. I know he got a little banged up in the first game, but he is pick-upable, at least. I wouldn't play him. He's a flex guy, but all of a sudden, if Debo or Ayuk is hurt, I mean, he got some looks in week 1. It may have just been because Ayuk is like working his way back up. That's why Jennings was maybe there more often. However, he's a guy that you can pick up just in case. He did look pretty good, I thought. Also, the game just started, as you can see on my phone. The Thursday night game, Achane is in. So there you go for all you Achane owners. You are chilling. Moving on to the Vikings, they're going to get humbled this week a little bit. They beat up on the terrible Giants in week 1. Now they're going to get beat up by a way better team. Sam Darnold, he looked good in week 1. Not playing him in this matchup if you don't have to. Justin Jefferson's going to get his own. Would not be surprised if he's not going to find the end zone of this one. However, he's going to have a lot of targets because Addison's hurt and they don't really have anyone else. So you're obviously playing Justin Jefferson every week. He's so good. He's going to be fine. Addison is hurt, so if you really want to try to get like a nailer in your lineup, if you feel like you have to, or if you have to for whatever reason, I'm not excited about it in this matchup, but a guy you can keep on your bench for now, especially with Addison getting hurt. Maybe you have to start Naylor, and he is the wide receiver too, that as we expect, as far as we know. So maybe he has a decent game with them focusing in on Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler, bad matchup for those guys. Don't expect a lot out of them. You start Aaron Jones as like a low-end running back 2, hoping he gets some check down passes or something in PPR to boost his score up. Don't expect him to have a good game, though. Same with Ty Chandler. He's like a flex play. Maybe he also gets some touches out in the passing game out of the backfield, but does not feel good. And then the tight end, I think his name is Mutt, or I don't know how you pronounce his name. Sorry if I'm butchering the name or if that's not even who it is. I don't know, but not really interested in starting him, and especially in this matchup. So should be an easy win for the 49ers. Sorry if you're a Vikings fan. I'm not very excited about or not excited, but like not very hopeful for you in week 2 here. Moving on to the Seattle and the Patriots. I'm going to try to speed it up a little, guys. I don't want it to be too long for you, but I do enjoy talking about these matchups. Seattle, we'll start with them. This is not a very inspiring matchup. I think both offenses are kind of not mid, but like not great, and both have decent defenses. We saw the Patriots, not the Patriots, the Seahawks and the Broncos play each other last week. I think the Broncos and the Patriots are very similar. Both have decent defenses, and offenses are very mediocre. The Seahawks are in the same situation this week. So I think we kind of expect what we should expect what we saw in week 1 from him. Geno Smith is a guy that I talked about in my reactions in week 1 video. He is a guy that kind of caught a stray for me. I think I was a little tired and like not really knowing what I was saying. I recorded that late at night. Geno Smith isn't a bad quarterback. It's just a guy that I'm not super interested in fantasy football as of right now. He has some good wide receivers, but I think they're like just better when they run the ball, and I just don't think he's all that good. So I don't really want to start Geno Smith unless you absolutely have to in a league. And then as far as the receivers go, I mean, JSN in week 1 had like 2 targets. You're not starting him. He's just on your bench for now if you have him. Tyler Lockett still looks fine. He's getting old, but if he's healthy, he's going to get targets, I guess. So he's like a flex play if you have to start Tyler Lockett, maybe like a low-end wide receiver 2. and DK, of course. Now, DK got shut down by Pat Surtain in week 1. I think he could have a little bit of a bounce back week here, but Patriots defense is still very good. So don't expect a ton from the Seattle passing game this week. I think they're best when they run the ball, which we'll talk about right now. Oh, yeah, Noah Fant. Not really interested in starting him. He's like a tight end 2. Hopefully you don't have to start Noah Fant. Running game for the Seahawks is where it really is, though. If Kenneth Walker isn't hurt and he is in the game, then I expect him to be just fine. They're probably going to want to or have to rely on him at the end of the day. And he's a great running back. He should be good. You start him as like a low-end RB1 in fantasy. Tough matchup still, so limit your expectations a little bit. If he isn't playing, then Zach Charbonnet just takes his spot. You play him as like RB2 kind of play, and Zach Charbonnet is another guy I just really like. He's a great handcuff this year. Another thing we have to be careful about, though, in this one is if Kenneth Walker comes into the game playing, but then they limit him, and then all of a sudden he's limited, and then Zach Charbonnet gets more reps, but then he's still not getting the full reps. So like both guys just split fantasy value, and it's going to be kind of an ugly week in an ugly matchup. So keep that in mind. Limit expectations a little bit. Patriots, I expect them to look like the Broncos did in week 1. They don't have any good offensive players, and it's going to be probably looking a little ugly. Jacoby Brissett's still there for now. You don't love it. He's there. Drake May will probably end up taking over eventually. He's not really a fantasy value. The wide receivers there in result of the quarterback, I guess, partially, aren't worth anything. All of those guys are probably on your bench. All of the receivers in New England are on your bench right now, and you're not starting them in this week. Hunter Henry is very similar to Noah Fant. You don't want to play him. However, he's playable if you absolutely need to. Hopefully you don't have to play Hunter Henry, though. The one guy you're starting is Ramondre Stevenson. He looked good in week 1. He can catch the ball out of the backfield in PPR. He's going to get some points most likely. Don't love the matchup, but it should be fine. I think Ramondre Stevenson is the guy you play if you need to play someone from that team. All right, moving on. I'm also in the middle of watching Thursday Night Football right now. Tua threw a pick. Like I said, Achane's playing. Bills are driving right now. They just ran a horrible run play, and now they're probably going to kick a field goal. Dalton Kincaid is getting some targets early. They're making that a point of emphasis, you could tell. So, Jets-Titans, probably kind of a boring matchup this week. Aaron Rodgers is back, though. He looked like Aaron Rodgers in week 1. They did lose in a very tough matchup, but shout out to Jets fans. You got Aaron Rodgers back. Pretty much the sum of the New York Jets fantasy value is Aaron Rodgers sort of. He's never going to run the ball, so it's limited value. But he's like a QB2 if you have to start him in a deep league, sort of playable in matchups. This would probably be a matchup you could play him if you wanted. And then you got Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson that you're starting every single week. Other than that, as of right now, there's not a lot. Conklin didn't do really anything in week 1. You don't really care for him at the tight end spot. He's kind of like a Hunter Henry, Noah Fant kind of level. Lazard is like a flex player or a low-end wide receiver 2. Don't expect him to catch touchdowns every week. And then if he's not going to catch a touchdown, he's probably not going to do much. And then Mike Williams is coming off of major injury, and you probably aren't going to see much of him do anything good this year. And if he does, it's going to be in very limited spurts. So overall, they have a great defense, and then they just have a few very good offensive pieces. And if you don't have those offensive pieces in fantasy, then you probably don't want to play anyone there. And the Titans, Will Levis is sucky. He sucks. Don't want to play him. And in result, you don't want to play a lot of the Titans offense. The receivers are almost not playable. Calvin Ridley is a little bit playable. Low-end wide receiver 2. He's like the only guy there that seems like he has any juice. You can play him. You don't feel great about it, especially against the Jets defense, but you feel good about it in certain matchups, I guess. So, moving on to the running backs there. Shout out James Cook fantasy owners. He just caught a touchdown pass from Josh Allen against the Dolphins in Thursday night here. It was a really nice 4th down play. But going back to the Titans running backs, Tony Pollard is still like that running back, low-end running back 2. if he's not going to do it or run in a touchdown, I don't think he's going to have a lot of value though. And then him and Spears are just so split. I mean, Spears is like that flex value probably. He's probably going to catch more passes. Just really don't like it. I mean, you have a handcuff to either one, if one of them gets hurt, but it's just ugly, especially against the New York Jets defense, who's very good. And then we move on to Chigakonkwo at the tight end position, similar to Conklin and Noah Fant and Hunter Henry. Probably not a very good play. Don't play him if you don't have to. So, DeAndre Hopkins. I mentioned him in my week 1 reaction. DeAndre Hopkins did essentially nothing in week 1. He's not a guy I'm comfortable playing right now. Keep him on your bench for now until he shows signs of life. Come on, phone. What are you doing? Here we go. Sorry about that. All right, fun matchup here. Giants and Commanders. It's one of those matchups where both teams are so bad that it ends up being a great matchup and there's a bunch of fantasy value. So both teams are bad. Both defenses are bad. There's going to be some fantasy points in this game to be found. So let's start with the Giants. Daniel Jones is horrible. We knew that all mock draft season. I kept telling you guys, be careful. Daniel Jones sucks. Watch out for Malik Neighbors and result. Well, here you go. This is not only the bounce back game, but the get right kind of game that fools everyone for the rest of the season. So the Commanders' defense is one of the worst in the NFL, is going to be one of the worst in the NFL this year. Daniel Jones could have a great game. You could start him if you really want to in a lot of leagues. However, if you don't have to, I wouldn't. But, I mean, Daniel Jones, he could easily run in a touchdown. He could throw in a touchdown or two. The Commanders' secondary is horrible. This is the get-right game if you're the Giants right here. Daniel Jones, even if he's just decent, the wide receivers should benefit. Malik Neighbors should have a great game. I could see it already. Rookie's first touchdown of his career, Malik Neighbors in the end zone. I expect Malik Neighbors to score a touchdown this week. If you have Malik Neighbors, you should get hype. Wan'Dale Robinson even had a great week 1, or not great, but had a lot of targets in week 1. I expect him to have a good game against this trash Commanders defense. So those are some guys you can start. Even Devin Singletary, I do not like him for all of season, but here's the only matchup that he should probably have a decent game in. If they find themselves at the goal line, Devin Singletary should be able to pop or push it in the end zone if Daniel Jones isn't doing it. So some hope there. I don't even know who the Giants tight end is off the top of my head. I'm not interested in him, but maybe he catches the touchdown against this trash defense. Who knows? Moving on to the Commanders. Kind of same with them. Giants defense is also really bad. Jayden Daniels looks good in week 1, though. He runs the ball a lot, looks explosive. He's still figuring out how to pass the ball, though. So don't expect a ton of high upside from the passing game this season. Maybe that was a misread by a lot of us, including me, on Terry McLaurin. But again, they're playing the Giants. You never know what can happen. So you could start Jayden Daniels. He looks awesome. He rushes the ball. He's like the next RG3, the next Lamar Jackson if he stays healthy. But besides that, the receiving game, like we just mentioned, you can start Terry McLaurin. He's like a wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2. You have to just hope the Jayden Daniels passing gets figured out a little bit so you can have some upside with those receivers. Other than that, the receivers there you just aren't excited about. The running game, though, is interesting. Brian Robinson Jr. looks really good in week 1. He stays on the field a lot. They aren't afraid to throw the ball to him out of the backfield a little bit. So Austin Eckler isn't totally taking over that. Now, Austin Eckler also has a little bit of value. However, the guy to have is Brian Robinson Jr., who I have in some leagues. So shout out to all of us Brian Robinson Jr. owners. He looks like he is a decent play. And especially against a bad defense, he should have a great game. Austin Eckler, he just comes out in obvious pass situations, I think. He's not going to get a lot of carries, especially around the goal line. I think that's all Brian Robinson Jr. or Jayden Daniels. So although he's rosterable and you can play him every now and then as your flex, you don't like it. You just have to hope he catches some passes in PPR leagues. Tight ends, really quick. Zach Ertz is there. I almost forgot that Zach Ertz is still playing. He got some targets in week 1. I kind of could see the route that happened last year with Zach Ertz, and where he starts to run out of gas throughout the season, and then Rookie tight end overtakes him in what's the tight end they just drafted? Ooh, tip of my tongue. I have him in my dynasty league. Sinnott, I think his name is. I wouldn't be surprised if Sinnott kind of takes over like Trey McBride did for the Cardinals last year. So keep an eye on that situation. But overall, don't really care to start Zach Ertz all that much. He's like in that same class as like Hunter Henry and Noah Fant. Moving on to the Rams-Cardinals. Way more fun of a game here. Rams, kind of quickly, your guy Matthew Stafford is playable. He doesn't get any rushing upside, so he's like a very low in QB1, but if you have to play him in some leagues, you can. I am in a league myself. Kyren Williams is easily running back 1. We all got scared by Blake Corum. He didn't even play week 1. Blake Corum maybe will have some value later in the year, but as of right now, Kyren Williams is the guy, RB1. Cooper Kupp, best fantasy wide receiver in the league, especially with Puka Nacua out. You hope he just stays healthy. Obviously playing him. You can even start some of the other wide receivers that are there now that Puka's on IR. Demarcus Robinson got some targets in week 1. I would not be shocked at all if Demarcus Robinson or the other guy, I think his name is Taylor, last name is Taylor, one of those guys is probably going to have a great game and maybe catch a touchdown this week because someone else has to catch the ball besides Cooper Kupp. So those guys are playable like as a flex kind of situation if you have to. So not bad plays this week and a good matchup. The tight end Parkinson's there. I think I have mentioned him already. If I haven't, he's a guy I'm willing to pick up and play in certain leagues. With Puka out, someone's got to catch the ball besides Kupp. So Parkinson's there. He got some targets in week 1. He looks pretty good. So I am playing Parkinson if you have to or if you want to, if you're struggling with your tight end position. Cardinals, Kyler Murray has that rushing upside. He's an absolute start. You have to start Kyler Murray, QB1 kind of guy. James Conner, RB1. If he stays healthy, he's a beast. Don't worry about the backup running backs there. I mean, they're both, don't want to sound too harsh, but they're nothing for fantasy as of right now. Trey McBride's a start. He started off slow in week 1, but he still had the targets. So you don't worry about Trey McBride. He's a tight end 1. Marvin Harrison Jr., don't panic on him yet. I would not be surprised at all if he has a little bit of a bounce back game here. At the very least, he'll catch a couple more passes. So maybe he gets in the end zone this week. Start Marvin Harrison Jr. as like a wide receiver 2. And then as far as the rest of the running backs go, or wide receivers go for the Cardinals, they're also playable. I mean, Greg Dortch got a lot of targets in week 1. You can play him as like a flex play. Maybe not Michael Wilson as much. He did catch the touchdown in week 1, if I do remember correctly. Maybe it got called back. I don't remember right, but Michael Wilson gets some targets. He might catch a touchdown, but if he doesn't catch a touchdown, he's not going to do anything, so you probably keep him on your bench. Moving on. Also, the Dolphins are driving on the Bills. This could be a high-scoring game, which would be kind of fun. Also, Devon Achane, I'm not even really like paying attention to the game. I'm looking more at my phone to try to focus a little bit. Every single time I look up and the Dolphins have the ball, Devon Achane is running the ball in one way or another, whether he gets a ball out of backfield or if he catches it. Absolutely insane how they're using him. And if you're a Devon Achane owner, you love it. I'm a little worried about him getting injured at some point, guys. I mean, you ride it until you can't anymore, but that dude is going to get hurt at some point this season if they keep giving him the ball this much. But good for him, I guess, and good for all of you that have Achane. He is just always getting the ball. It's amazing to me. I understand it. He's a great player, but he's so little. He's going to get hurt, man. Like, they got to be careful. Moving on, though. Not trying to make this video too long. I'm getting sidetracked. Steelers-Broncos. Now, this is a horrible fantasy matchup. Both offenses are terrible, and both defenses are pretty good, especially the Steelers. They're like top 3 in the NFL. So start with Pittsburgh. I mean, it doesn't matter if Justin Fields or Wilson starts. I wouldn't start either of them. However, if you have Fields, that's the guy I would want to start more. He is like I could easily see him running it in the end zone on the Broncos at some point. Like, not that I think he's going to have a good game. He can't really throw very well, but keep that in mind if you have Fields or for some reason need to start him. The only receiver you think about starting there is Pickens. However, we saw what happened to DK Metcalf when Surtain was on him last week. If Surtain's going to be on Pickens the majority of the game this week, I don't think Pickens is going to have a very good game. Like I said, it's going to be a very low-scoring game. If you have to start Pickens, you probably are going to start him. He's like DK last week. He's coming in as like a low-end running back 1. So, not running back 1, low-end wide receiver 2 probably in this matchup. Sorry, I'm definitely getting sidetracked by the game, guys. I apologize. Pat Freiermuth, again, I could see him catching a touchdown because Broncos have struggled over the years with tight ends, but a guy I'm not really high on starting, maybe in that same kind of Hunter Henry kind of range for Pat Freiermuth. Let's go on to the running backs. Split backfield, Najee Harris, Warren. If there's going to be any points scored in this game, it's most likely going to have to do with one of these running backs. Najee Harris is like a low-end running back 2. Jaylen Warren a flex play. Don't feel great about the matchup, but you probably have to play those guys in most leagues. The Broncos, you don't want to start absolutely anybody. Absolutely anybody. They are playing at one of the best defenses in the NFL. They just got pretty much shut down for the most part against the Seahawks defense last week, who, although is probably pretty good and we should give them their respect, is not even close to how good the Steelers defense is. Not starting Bo Nix. Don't want to start McLaughlin. Don't want to start Javonte Williams. Don't want to start Cortland Sutton. Don't want to start any of the receivers. Don't want to start any of the tight ends. You sit all of them. You only play them if you're in a super deep league. And then if you have a specific question about a Broncos player, let me know, and I will answer it in the comments. So other than that, I do not want to play him at all. Guys, guess what? I looked up at the screen, and Devon Achane had the ball again, and they scored. Shout out Devon Achane owners. It is crazy how much they were using him. I should have not been so low on him. That is my bad. To the few of you that probably listened to me about not wanting Devon Achane. Like I said, though, in my reaction to Week 1 video, if I could see him getting hurt. So hopefully he doesn't for you guys at home, Devon Achane. So moving on to what I would say would be an awesome matchup, but we saw the Bengals playing Week 1, and it doesn't seem that way. Chiefs-Bengals, let's start with the Bengals. Joe Burrow, I mean, you kind of just have to trust that they will figure it out. They always start the season like this. They always start horribly, and then they slowly figure it out. Now, it's still super early, and it's a bad matchup at the end of the day. This might not be the week they figure it out, but Joe Burrow still is a playable quarterback if you have to. Now, there are some guys that you maybe want to start over him, like maybe even like a Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff, just until you see him figure it out. But, I mean, I would argue, like, if T. Higgins isn't playing this week, I probably wouldn't play Joe. I want him to play Joe Burrow again. Although he is playable, absolutely, if you just want to try to stick with him and not worry about it too much. Jamar Chase, you have to start. Iffy Week 1, iffy situation with Jamar Chase. You have to start him, though. T. Higgins, if he's playing, you start him. If not, then I'm sorry. You have to continue to wait. Don't really want to start any of the other Bengals wide receivers, if I'm being honest with you. And same with the tight ends. Gesicki almost caught a nice touchdown last week that got called back. If you have to stream Gesicki, go ahead. Definitely not excited about it in this matchup. The running back, Zach Moss, my goodness. Zach Moss looked so uninspiring, but Chase Brown looked like even more uninspiring. So I don't really know what you want to do. You probably have to just play Zach Moss as like a low-end RB2. Chase Brown's like a low-end flex play. Don't want to play Chase Brown at all, but you probably have to play Zach Moss. I think that's it for them. Moving on to the Chiefs, you start Mahomes, you start Rice, you start Kelsey, you start Pacheco. That's about it for most must starts. You probably could flex play your Worthy, but don't expect 2 touchdowns. Don't even expect 1 touchdown. But he's probably worth a play without Hollywood Brown. If Hollywood Brown's not starting, you could probably put Worthy in your lineup at like your flex. And then when Hollywood Brown comes back, you probably want to sit both of them until you see kind of how that works out with Hollywood Brown and Worthy. That's what I would want to do. The rest of the wide receivers there are on your bench if you have them. Same with the backup running backs. You don't want to play anyone else. To the best of my knowledge, I kind of like went through the Chiefs quick there. I hope I'm not forgetting like a big piece of the offense. I don't think I am though. And then we're doing the Sunday night game, Bears-Texans. I expect the Texans to kind of roll the Bears. The Bears with Caleb Williams just looked really bad in week 1. I did mention injuries for the Bears. It was more of an Odunze injury, I think, than a Keenan Allen injury. I think Keenan Allen also has something going on, but regardless, I don't think Odunze is playing this week. Makes DJ Moore and Keenan Allen more valuable if Keenan Allen's playing. DJ Moore's like a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. You play him. Keenan Allen's like a wide receiver 2. If he's healthy and playing, you can play him. If not, then I'm not really interested in any other of the receivers there until we see more at least. Same with the tight ends. Kmet, I don't think did anything in week 1. Now, I will say if Odunze and Keenan Allen are out, maybe Kmet's a sneaky play this week. So we'll have to keep an eye on the injuries come Sunday, but since it's a Sunday night game, you might not have much of an option anyways by the time we know about the injuries. So keep an eye on that, though. Not an inspiring play regardless because of Caleb Williams. We saw in week 1 struggles as a rookie quarterback. I think the Texans' defense is decent, so don't expect a whole lot. You probably have to play Swift as like a low-end RB2. Don't love it at all. Maybe even like a flex play. Maybe play Herbert and hope he gets it into the end zone. Rather just sit those guys until we see more from it. Texans, start Stroud, start Collins, start Diggs, start Dell, start Mixon. You sit the tight end, and that is it. That is their team. The backup running back you don't worry about right now for the Texans. It's all Mixon. So, again, I went through that pretty quick. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Let's go to Monday night. I'm probably going to end up getting week 2 reaction out during Monday night game or maybe Tuesday. Just a heads up as we get into this last reaction. Falcons-Eagles should be kind of a fun Monday night game. Man, oh man, Atlanta Falcons fans and fantasy managers that have Atlanta Falcons on their team, can you guys please bounce back? Now, I'm not saying the Eagles are like an easy matchup, but you need to bounce back this week. The week 1 was ugly and awful. Please give Drake London more than like 4 targets. Give him like minimum 5 targets and just see what happens, please. Kirk Cousins, like I understand you're coming off of an injury, but again, please just look like a little better. Not that I'm expecting them to like have a complete 180 turnaround in the offense, but like you guys have to just look better than you did in week 1 against the Steelers. Like, come on now. Kirk Cousins is uninspiring to start in fantasy after week 1. I'm still just waiting on him if you have him on your team. Drake London, you have to start, man. I mean, you drafted him probably 2nd or 3rd round in most leagues. You need to start him, and you just hope what they said about getting him more targets after the game in week 1 is true, and then they do it. Please just give him more targets. Don't really want to start any of the other receivers. The other ones are all like flex plays, or you put them on your bench at best. And even though McLeod, I think his name is, got a bunch of targets in week 1, I don't know why Kirk Cousins kept targeting him. Obviously, it didn't work. Don't do that anymore, Kirk Cousins. Throw it to Drake London. Or Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a startable guy. You start him. You drafted him as your tight end one. You have to draft him. He caught the touchdown in week 1 at least. Maybe they will continue to build on that stuff, and it looks good. Bijan Robinson, you start for sure. Tyler Algier got like 10% of the snaps, I think, in week 1. You keep him on your bench as a handcuff. Eagles, start Hurts, start Brown, start Devontae Smith, start Saquon. You probably have to start Goddard. Don't even hate that you have to start Goddard, but it's just not like a super fun play at the tight end position. But like we keep saying, tight end position is kind of ugly this year. Start Goddard. You don't start Jahan Dotson. He's kind of like a flex play for the receiving core for the Eagles. If like Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown gets hurt, you start Dotson. But other than that, you're not starting Dotson. And then there's really no other running back behind Saquon that you want unless Saquon gets injured. And then maybe it is, who do they have there? Definitely another one that's like I'm thinking of it. I just can't get the name out of my mind right now. I don't know, but you just keep him on your bench. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. It's going to come to me in like 5 seconds. But that's it for week 2, guys. I hope you got something out of this week 2 start sit kind of video. let me know if you found this helpful. Like the video if you find it helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to see more of the season. And please feel free to send me your comments, guys. I mean, if you have questions after this video still, the best way to get it answered from me is just to comment it really quick, and I'll get back to you like within the next 12 hours after you comment probably. So until next time on this one, guys, I had fun doing this one. It's definitely going to be longer, so thanks for sticking with me. We'll see you later this week. Good luck this weekend in football. Until the next one, peace out, guys.